Benzaiten. A beautiful goddess from Japan, Benzaiten is the East Asian Buddhist goddess of luck and love. Also known as Ben-Ten, Benzaiten was the only female deity of the seven gods of fortune known as the Shichi-Fukujin. She is an East Asian take on the Hindu goddess Saraswati and a role model for the feminine arts, often depicted playing a Japanese lute called a biwa. Because of this, she became the patron saint of geishas. The most famous story about Benzaiten is her marriage to Gozu-Ryu. In this, a fearsome five-headed dragon, Gozu-Ryu, is terrorizing the island of Enoshima, damaging it with huge earthquakes and torrential storms. This island was under the domain of Benzaiten, so she confronted the dragon. But Gozu-Ryu is immediately struck by Benzaiten's ethereal beauty and falls in love with the goddess. Benzaiten promises to marry him, but only if he mends his ways. So the two got married, and it is said that Benzaiten and her dragon lover have protected the island ever since. Inanna. Inanna, also called Ishtar, was the Mesopotamian goddess with domain over love, war, and fertility. She was one of the most important gods in Mesopotamia and was known as the Queen of Heaven. But there was one man she couldn't conquer, the hero king Gilgamesh. When Ishtar expresses her desire for Gilgamesh, he refuses. Her last 6 lovers had all died, some by torturous means. Not used to being rejected, Ishtar furiously sends the White Bull of Heaven to kill Gilgamesh. Luckily, Gilgamesh's friend Enkidu manages to kill the bull. But Ishtar and the other gods decide that is a mortal sin, and Gilgamesh is devastated when Enkidu is put to death. Yuelao. In Chinese mythology, there is a god known as Yuelao who is associated with love. Long before Tinder, in China, there was Yuelao, known as the matchmaker god. He was often pictured as an old man, with a long white beard and yellow robes, standing under a moon. He carries a marriage appointment book and magical red string, with which he is said to literally tie the knot and create the perfect partnership in marriage. Hathor. The prominent Egyptian goddess Hathor held influence over many things including love, fertility, and music. She is one of the oldest ancient Egyptian gods, with roots going back all the way to pre-dynastic Egypt. She is said to have dwelled in the papyrus thicket among her sacred papyrus plants. Unlike many other gods of love, Hathor balanced both gentle and destructive aspects of love. She was seen as the universal cow mother, a symbol of motherly love. But in the Book of the Heavenly Cow, she turns to destruction to protect her love, her father Ra, by becoming the Eye of Ra and turning into Sekhmet, the bloodthirsty goddess of war, almost wiping out mankind. Lempo. Lempo was the ancient Finnish goddess of love, fire, and fertility. Originally, Lempo was seen as a good-natured goddess with the ability to cast love spells. But later, with the influence of Christianity, Lempo became seen as a demonic creature. So much so that Lempo is a mild curse word in the Finnish language. Oshun. Oshun is the Yoruba deity associated with love, water, and fertility. She is one of the most beloved Yoruba deities and the second wife of the thunder and fire god, Shango. The tale of Oshun spread to areas like Brazil and Cuba, in a religion known as Santeria, where they tell the tale of Oshun's flight. In this, the supreme god, Olodumare, grew angry with the other Yoruba deities, so he punished them with a drought caused by a fierce sun. Oshun had to do something to stop this, so she turned into a beautiful peacock and flew past the hot sun. On the way, her beautiful feathers melted, but she pushed on. When Olodumare saw she had sacrificed her beauty, he relinquished and made her his personal messenger. Angus Og. Angus Og comes from Irish mythology and is strongly associated with youth, beauty, and love. He is said to be exceedingly beautiful and often has 4 birds flying around his head, representing his kisses. In one myth, he sees a beautiful girl in his dreams and falls madly in love with her. So he goes on a journey to find her. Eventually, he finds out her name is Caer Ibermeath, but she has been turned into a swan and is being held captive. To rescue her, he has to identify her against 150 other swans, so he turns into a swan himself, calling out to her and whisks her off to his palace. Ruda. Ruda is the Tupi-Guarani deity associated primarily with love. Ruda lives among the clouds, and like another god we'll be mentioning later, he carries a bow and arrow which he uses to pierce the hearts of warriors and open them up to love. He was created by the creator and sun god, Guarachi, to deliver messages of love to the moon goddess Jasi. Aphrodite. Aphrodite and her Roman counterpart, Venus, are goddesses of love, beauty, and sexuality. Depending on if you listen to Hesiod or Homer, she was said to be born either from the foam of the severed genitals of the Titan Uranus or by Zeus and Dione. She was in an unhappy marriage to the ugly blacksmith god, Hephaestus, but had many other lovers including the Olympians Ares, Hermes, Dionysus, and Poseidon. But she wasn't always loving and could be vengeful, especially concerning her beauty. For example, she cursed Eos, the goddess of the dawn, with an insatiable libido because she slept with Ares. She made Narcissus fall in love with his reflection. She sent mad Thracian women to tear Orpheus limb from limb and turned Nereides into a shellfish when he wouldn't go to Olympus with her. Xochiquetzal. Xochiquetzal was the Aztec goddess of beauty, love, fornication, and flowers. She can be identified in images by her nose plug and long braided hair that is adorned with quetzal bird feathers. Chosen female worshippers would become deity impersonators of her for a year, and then would be sacrificed inside her temple by removing their hearts. Astwick. A goddess from Armenian mythology, Astwick held domain over fertility, love, beauty, and water. Her symbols were the dove and the rose. She was also the wife of the important fire and war god Vahagan. The Vardavar festival is still held in Armenia in her honor today, where people drench each other in water and doves are flown. Kamadeva. Kamadeva is the Hindu god associated with love and desire. He is said to be perpetually youthful, riding atop a giant green parrot, and is often worshipped alongside his wife Rati, who is another Hindu deity of love and particularly lust. He was once killed by the Hindu deity Lord Shiva. After his first wife died, Shiva entered celibacy and meditation. To defeat the demon Tarakasura, the gods sent Kama to make Shiva fall for Parvati. Shiva, angered by this trick, burnt Kama to ashes with his third eye. Later, Shiva resurrected Kama, fathered a child, and the child defeated the demon. Freya. The Norse goddess Freya is associated with several domains including love, war, fertility, and magic. She was the sister of the peaceful god Freyr, and they were both the children of Njord, the Vanir sea god, and an unnamed woman. In contrast to the male gods like Thor, who were often brutish and aggressive, Freya often used persuasion to get what she wanted. For example, she wanted a necklace known as Brinsingerman and offered its dwarven creators gold, but they wanted something a little more than that. 4 nights later, she came out with the necklace. She was the most beautiful of the Norse goddesses, popular with giants like Thrym, who stole Thor's hammer hoping to marry Freya in return, or the Jotun who built the wall around Asgard demanding the sun, moon, and Freya as compensation. But there was only one man who had Freya's heart. Odr was a mysterious god who loved wandering the earth. One day he vanished and Freya couldn't find him, so she was left weeping tears of pure gold. Tuur Shen. Tuur Shen is a god from Taiwanese mythology that is associated primarily with love. In Taiwan mythology, he is the overseer of love between men. He is often pictured as a rabbit, and has a temple dedicated to him in Taipei, known as the Rabbit Temple. Originally, Tuur Shen was a mortal man called Hu Tianbo. He falls for an important official and spies on him from afar. When the official notices, he kills Hu Tianbo. But he is resurrected in the underworld as Tuur Shen, the rabbit god, overseeing male love affairs from then on. Prende. Prende is an old Illyrian goddess of love, women, fertility, and health. Her sacred symbol is the rainbow, which is colloquially referred to as Lady Prende's belt. She had a special festival held in her honor where women would wear beautiful clothing. Eros. The Greek god Eros and his Roman counterpart, Cupid, are gods of love and sex. He is often depicted as a handsome young man, but later was also seen as a young cherub boy. However, the earliest idea of Eros in Greek mythology was as a primordial force that was there at the dawn of creation. As his younger incarnation, he was the son of Aphrodite, by either Ares or Hermes, depending on the origin of the story. Eros was the most important of the Erotes, a retinue of assistants to Aphrodite, who were all associated with specific aspects of love. He fired arrows to start a fire of passion in the hearts of both gods and mortals, but he could also shoot arrows that caused people to be repulsed by their lovers. One time, Apollo offended Eros, so he shot 2 arrows, one that made Apollo fall for the beautiful nymph Daphne, and one that shot Daphne that made her disgusted by Apollo. Like any good Greek love story, Daphne ended up being turned into a tree. Curricula. Curricula is a Buddhist deity with domain over love and riches. She is often depicted with red skin and carries a bow and arrow made from flowers in one of her 4 hands, and is often standing on a lotus flower, representing her family. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are 5 Buddha families that represent different aspects of an enlightened mind, each with a Buddha at the head of it. Curricula is part of the lotus or Padma family, under the Buddha Amitabha, which symbolizes fire, compassion, and lust. Asaseya. Asaseya comes from the Akan people living primarily in Ghana, and she's associated with the earth, fertility, and love. Though predominantly a Mother Earth goddess, she is also linked to love, particularly motherly love. She is the wife of the omnipotent sky father, Nyame, which makes her the second most important of the Akan deities. Diyan Masalanta. In Tagalog mythology, the goddess Diyan Masalanta is a deity of love, childbirth, and peace. She is the youngest of all the Tagalog deities, and is described as the most beautiful and gentle of them. In her myths, she was said to have a deep connection with humanity, but one day she fell in love with a mortal man, so the supreme god Bathala punished her by banishing her from heaven, forcing her to live on earth with humanity. But since she loved humans so much, this was easy for her and she happily went. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time at Darkness and Lore.